So welcome to Feed Your Mind today. We are pleased to have a wonderful presenter who's going to get into some great advice and walk us through working on our EQ. I'm really excited to hear what this is all about. I do want to open things, first of all, by introducing Holly from Business. Mediacom Business is our sponsor for Feed Your Mind. We're very pleased that they agree to be part of this. So, Holly, we're going to show, but do you want to introduce the video at all as we get started here?
Sure. So this video is in regards to our new 10G house, the 10G platform. It's a combination of the technologies that will deliver the internet speeds 10 times faster than what you experience with today's networks, and 100 times faster than what most consumers currently experience. It translates to faster upload and download speed, lower latency. It does have enhanced reliability and better security. And with our partners, the Mediacom 10G Smart Home the demonstration includes more of the 80 connected devices, so you're able to actually count them off during this video. And so it's such a neat thing to watch and experience. And none of us have been able to actually do this on our own with our own homes. So to see this actually work itself out in this video is just amazing. It does also include, you can do things like the life-saving telemedicine that we all are going to have to experience at some point or another. And it has a seamless home and business automation solutions. So yes, go ahead, Danny, and share that video.
Okay.
This new 10G service that's right here in this house is really going to impact how people live, work, and play.
I have never been in a home with this much connectivity. I don't think I've been in a home with a quarter of this much connectivity.
We have over 80 connected devices in the home. Does one thing need 10G? No. But if you're going to be a home filled with new technology, that's really where I think the 10G home starts to make sense.
I think this is what the Jetsons had in mind. Yeah. Mediacom unveiled its new 10G home. The internet service there can handle 10 gigabytes of data.
In this new development going up, there's one house unlike any other. This first ever 10G smart home is running 70 devices at the same time.
The possibilities that 10G allows is astronomical. Especially in the climate that we're in right now. You're working at home, you're playing at home, you're schooling at home, you're gaming at home, and 10G solves all of that.
You put the stethoscope, so can you put it on number 1 and take a deep breath in and out?
Foundational to a successful telemedicine visit is having a great connection point at their home.
I think it's such an incredible asset to have here that we're showcasing in Ames, Iowa. The 10G home is just cutting edge, and it's really showing how important it is to connect all of our communities throughout the heartland and the entire U.S.
It's more of a showcase to show it doesn't have to be in a large city. Our network is available to build this anywhere.
What we're showing here today is a 3D holographic display. Basically, you get your full 3D experience in your living room without any additional headwear.
We have lights, we have locks, we have thermostats.
It's everything and anything that you can think about putting on your internet can go on it now.
So it's the whole experience, and it's really the capacity to be able to provide all of that stuff working simultaneously.
It's very important for companies like Mediacom to help us keep upgrading.
It's not enough to just have access. We need the bandwidth as well.
Very cool to see Mediacom jump on top of something that is going to be more and more commonplace in decades, years to come.
Low latency, very fast bandwidth, high reliability, high security. These are the building blocks that make our products better.
All right, so there you have it.
Yeah. So this video it's very relevant right now, especially since we are all seems to be transitioning back to some type of quarantine, but not. I hate to use that word, but yeah, with last night's governor's new restrictions, and then most kids are full time back at home learning. So we definitely need these types of devices, and we definitely need the bandwidth, and we need things like this right now, especially in the time that we live.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do. It's my pleasure to introduce Jennifer Simpson today, as thanking people who helped sponsor this Feed Your Mind series. I do also want to thank Eric Dominguez for helping bring Jennifer to our Feed Your Mind series today. So I want to tell you, Jennifer is a sales empowerment mentor. She is get this, she's a 20-year quota crushing sales leader. Not one who has met quota, but quota crushing sales leader. She's a advisor, motivational speaker, sales trainer, playbook creator, and author in the making. You'll probably take pre-orders for the book right now today.
Absolutely.
Is that all right? We can do that. All right, fantastic. I'm going to Jennifer, and I do want to let everyone know that Jennifer has said she'll and there are going to be points in her presentation where she's going to questions. Feel free to also put things in chat as well. I'll watching chat either for comments or questions there as well. Jennifer, please, I can't wait what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. So I wanted to be able to make eye contact with all of you all before I put my screen on and we enter the Zoom experience. I don't want to just talk at you for 45 minutes. I want you to absorb what I'm saying and even take notes, participate on your own end, since I don't get the luxury of seeing your face once I share the screen. So there's going to be moments, like Daniel said, where I'm going to ask you a few questions, and if you want to actually answer them, you're welcome to raise your hand and we can cue you up to come off mute, or you can just drop it into the chat. So with that being said, you should probably learn just a little bit about me. Give it just a second. So Simpson Sales Solutions. To tell you exactly what I do and why I do it, we're probably going to have to rewind just a bit. I'm a farm girl. I grew up on a small farm in eastern Iowa. I went off to the big bad city to get my degree in college. And by big bad city, I mean Ankeny, Iowa, for my DMAC community college degree in graphic design. I scraped together every Iowa Farm Bureau, American Legion scholarship I could to send myself to school. Then I went off into the workforce and actually worked at Grandview College so that I could exchange my full-time employment for bachelor's degree education. And I entered the sales force after a stint in fundraising. And my career was skyrocketing. There was money to match all of my energy and effort in sales, so much so that I was awarded Salesperson of the Year. If you're ever around the Des Moines Metro and see a smiling salesperson, my teeth were 6 foot wide on a 48-foot billboard. It was pretty fantastic. And while I was internet dating my husband 20 years ago, circa Match 1.0, I wouldn't tell him what I did for a living or what I looked like. After I realized he was actually a decent human being, I gave him the address of Beaver and Douglas and told him to drive down the road and look up, because my 48-foot face was right above what was Porky's at that point. We dated, we got married, and in the midst of that, I had a collision of my career with my faith. And I had been in sales for my entire career. And I had this moment where I realized that the profession was inherently filled with negative competition, selfish ambition, and rivalry. And so I had a bit of an identity reboot at that point. My husband and I had 2 children, later in life. So while we were knocking on the door of 40, we brought 2 young children into our household. And 3 years ago, I started on the roadmap of business ownership so that I could take everything that I've learned along the way and help even more people. You're here today to talk about emotions. We are not rational beings, we are emotional beings, and anybody who's been around in leadership for years and years knows Zig Zigler. And the topic today was sales EQ versus sales IQ. Now I'm going to challenge you to throw something in the middle. That's AQ. Now, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to increase your IQ. You were born with your IQ. It's how fast you think. It's like, think of athleticism and natural athletes. Your IQ is your natural ability to think, process, engage, and regurgitate the information that AQ you are acquiring. That's your ability to learn, absorb, and even invest in your own professional development. EQ, on the other hand, is how you feel. And that internal, I call it EQ from the inside out. And EQ in sales always starts with you. But you've got this variable that you can't control, and that is the buyer of your product or service. So we also, in sales EQ, have to add the customer's emotional experience in addition to your own emotional experience. And now all the things that you can't control enter into the sales process. Let's discuss. Question for the audience. What are reasons why, in your opinion, a buyer says no? No to a product, no to a service, no to moving forward with any particular project. This is the participatory part of the program, so let's see what kind of input and feedback we're going to get from the team. Why do you think a buyer says no?
Cost.
Angie says cost.
Okay.
Not a time in the chat from Terry.
Okay. We've got cost, we've got time.
It's not the right time. Maybe it's the cost is fine, the time allocation is fine. It's not right now.
Okay, so time and timing.
Maybe they're getting it from somebody else, whatever service or product that you're selling. So they just say no because they already have a provider for it.
Okay, so competitor would come into play. Do you?
They don't know that they have that need, or they don't think that they have a need for the product.
Okay, unknown need. Now, we'll flip it. Why do you think a buyer says yes?
They like you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, they see the benefit of your product or service. They see how it's going to improve that area of their lives.
There was actually a need created.
Anyone else?
They think the value that they would receive is beneficial.
The value is apparent. All right. So let's move on with that. I have notes on that. We will come back to applying those. So this is otherwise known as the why behind the buy. Cost, time, competition, all of those are actually pretty finite things that are affecting the client. The things that can tank your ability to close a client have to do with what's going on behind the scenes. One of the things is hurdles. Hurdles are external influencers. Let's dig into that. People, their coworkers, the position that those coworkers have, their own position and the ability to have the authorization to make the decision. It could be the power that other people wield over the decision maker. It could be personality conflicts from within the internal organization. There's also the possibility that there are process problems. This could be things that have been long ongoing issues within an organization that this particular decision maker can't change by themselves. Then there could be internal roadblocks within the organization. This could be a board of directors, a C-suite senior level of leaders, another group of individuals within the organization that could affect the decision getting made. There's also external influence. And you've got to think about this too. This could be family, how they're perceived in the community. This could be their concerns about the press and other things that might be external from their organization. Now, ultimately, we need to understand, is this overcomable, right? Yes or no? So let's flip it. We're still thinking like a client here. So the left-hand side is what the client needs from the salesperson to handle the emotions that are happening because of these hurdles. They ultimately just need your help. They need ammo to put in front of the other people. They need the process problems to be simplified. Are you going to add to the process problems, or are you going to simplify? And they need your support. You are more than likely not going to be able to remove these internal roadblocks. So the best that you can do is to understand how to support them while they look to remove those roadblocks. External influences, your ability to give them what they need to remove those. And overcomable in a client's mind is all about possibility. This is where the feeling and emotion comes into that list that you guys gave me. Why do they care about cost? Because if they overspent their budget, there's a lot of residual repercussions that they are going to feel. Do they have time? Or is the time right? That has everything to do with how they're balancing their day, and all the pressures to perform and produce are on their shoulders. Everything that's on the logical list of reasons they say yes or say no are tied to the emotions behind the scenes. Let's talk about that a little bit more. I talked about hurdles being an external influence. Concerns are internal. Okay, so that is what's keeping me up at night, to be cliche. This could be my own personal triggers. This could be some professional hesitations that I have. This could also be current experiences that I'm having either inside the office or at home. Do I have anxiety or stress, and is that anticipated or actual? And in that concern place, in that internal feeling, is that overcomable? Yes or no? And both hurdles and concerns are going to take some digging to get revealed at the client level. The questions that you ask and your ability to put yourself into the client's shoes, to navigate the conversation, to know when to talk, when to pause, when to push, when to proceed, and when to pull back, are all essence of emotional EQ. So when a client has concerns that's affecting their ability to make a decision emotionally, what they need from sales is support. Can you help them get to that peace of mind? If they're having professional hesitations, can you give them the confidence that they need to push forward with this decision? Empathy. I should have pulled empathy out and made it a big pop-up word in all bolded caps yellow. Empathy is your ability to see, feel, and understand another person's emotions. This is a really, really big one. And then can you give them the strength to get past some of those anxiety and stresses? And of course, what's the possibility? There is always two ways that a decision could go. It could go good or bad, right? That is fear, and the opposite is the dream, desire, and their ability to achieve it. In a marketing world, the marketing messaging that you're using has everything to do with getting the buyer to walk through the story, to see where they can go, what they can achieve, getting past that problem, getting to that goal. And so you're going to need to pull that out of the client. And a lot of the times you're only going to get that first level. Oh, it's time. Oh, it's cost. You're only going to get to the surface level objection or concern. So when we look at them side by side, help and support, those sound simple, but it's not always the simplest thing to do in sales. So now let's flip it. Let's go back to the audience and think about yourself for a second. Put yourself in the buyer's shoes. I don't care what you're buying. You could be buying a handbag, a car, some curriculum. Think about why you say no. Let's go to the group just a little bit. See why you say no. Anyone?
I don't really need it.
I don't know the full scope of what the product is. I need more information.
Okay, more info. Anyone else?
Need it.
Oh, what, G?
I was going to say, I don't really need it.
Okay. Anyone else? Aha, I see it in the chat. Pushy salespeople. Those darn pushy salespeople, they're so slimy. Anything else?
It also says in chat, having the funds available.
Funding? Because your desire could be there, but the ability to pay for it could be a legitimate roadblock to saying no. So someone brought it up, pushy salespeople. That is your first impression problem. I would bet money that you all have a first impression of me at this point, even up until now. You don't know me as a person. You barely know me professionally, but you already have an opinion of me. And there's not much I can do to change your opinion without being able to interact with you, communicate with you, and get into what motivates you. But the reasons that you say no could also have underlying emotions. Okay, you can't afford it right now, but you're already working through why you can't afford it. Did I overspend in some other area and I wish I could afford if I didn't do this thing? Then you kind of beat yourself up. So you say no and move on. All right, some of the other reasons are you just need more information. You say no because you're saying no for now, not right now. What are the emotions between not having enough information? Is that something where unless you have all of the analytical reasoning in the world, you can't move forward? Why is that? Where is that anxiety and stress and not having the appropriate information? We have access to the world's deepest and widest resource of information on the planet. Getting the most information may not, I challenge, be the only reason why you say no. All right. Let's get into what it feels like to be the client receiving you, the first impression piece. What you see is what you get. And in sales, you often have to put on your personality. And I don't say that because that's anybody intending to be fake, but you definitely have to adapt to the personalities that you're interacting with. But ultimately, nobody wants to admit that they have an ego, that they are prideful, that perhaps instead of sharing a testimonial, they are coming off as bragging. And God forbid, when you talk about your competitors, you ever be perceived as gossipy. And everybody wants to say, I'm modest and humble and confident and truthful. And it's absolutely the hardest thing to do for you to self-assess yourself and how the client perceives you and receives you. But I can promise you that they are passing you through these filters. Next filter that a client is going to pass you through is your ability to be authentic, your ability to be genuine in your intentions, to be trustworthy, selfless, and real. Now you'll flip it, you'll see on the other side that disingenuous, dishonest, selfish, and fake, those are all very harsh descriptive words, right? But if they pick up on any hint of dishonesty, they are immediately going to challenge trust from you from then on out. So you need to do your best to present yourself with authenticity. Thoughtfulness. The client is going to run you through this filter. Now, I have been a long-standing handwritten thank you note person. And even in the midst of pandemics and electronic communications, when it makes sense, because ultimately getting somebody's home address is probably the end result of asking for how I can share my gratitude with them and getting their address, I still do my best to try to send a handwritten thank you note. It just shows that I'm considerate and that I'm gracious. But this is where listening comes in. So much of sales is talking and preaching and pitching, and isn't as much about listening. Are you understanding of their current situation and not intending to try to close them prematurely, going back to time and timing? How observant are you to pick up on the things that are affecting them? Cost and budget is a real finite issue, but how are they handling their lack of budget? Not no, but not now. Next filter that the client is going to put you through is your ability to be supportive. Do you care? Do you encourage? Do you sympathize? And there's the good old-fashioned empathy again. How do you empathize with what they're going through? And sometimes that means not closing the deal. Knowing how to respond to your client's decision-making and be able to receive the no. That's the hardest part in sales, is the emotional side of you. When someone tells you no, they're probably not telling you personally no. You just happen to be the one receiving the no. All right. Self-awareness. This is going to be the key to your own emotional EQ from a sales perspective. Your ability to be self-aware is to be aware of your shortcomings and blind spots, to accurately interpret your own emotions, acknowledge your emotional triggers, be realistic about your strengths and weaknesses, to understand not only your communication style, but the communication style of the person who's receiving you and your information. And then to recognize what impacts others and to notice the negative emotions and their effects on you. Self-awareness is not a simple thing to do, but it is a very impactful piece of being a high-performing and successful salesperson. That brings me to the emotional side of sales. So I've worked with clients who are senior level decision makers, C-suites. They are basically one level below CEO, and they are wielding massive budgets. They're producing $20 million plus for their organization, but yet they still have underlying fear, anxiety, worry, doubt, and even imposter syndrome. They just don't tell anybody about it. I did a poll on LinkedIn and I asked what was the #1 emotion that people felt in sales that they didn't reveal to anybody else. And I won't leave you guessing, that was worry. Worry and anxiety. If you're a pipeline producing salesperson, you are responsible for revenue. It's a very stressful situation. If you're an owner of a business, you're doing both. You're producing revenue and you're leading an organization, which may or may not have employees and additional corporate culture and a lot of other contributors. And mindset matters. Now, speaking of what matters, this is what matters to you. I need to know what is inside of me. What's my belief system? Because my emotional balance has everything to do with my belief system. Am I believing lies? Am I believing something from the past? Am I believing the opinions of others? Am I trusting only on society's impressions of me? And am I leaning to what my superiors or my managers think and feel about me? And I had to go through this personal self-awareness reprogramming, and I had to understand what truths I had to not look at the past, but to push towards the potential, so that I didn't filter everything about how I was approaching building my business or consulting with my clients solely on the past or even the opinions of others. I had to lean on facts. Instead of thinking about what other people thought about me, I needed to think about my family and other people in my life. And I'm a faith-filled woman, and so instead of leaning on my superiors for support, I needed to lean on my creator. And there was a question, let me see.
Yeah, Jennifer, I was going to raise that too, whether you address it now or are going to get to it. And any difference between this rapport building, this emotional side of this, whether in person or we're trying to meet by phone or virtually through Zoom, something like this?
There is, unfortunately. There is the ability to get to that kind of intimate relationship level, but it takes a really intense discovery process and not a one and done. Sales right now is very much, I'm just trying to use marketing to push you into the funnel so that someone can book a meeting so that I can get my demo, and they want this one deal closed, this one meeting. And in-depth, intense, long-term sales cycles require trust to be established. And trust can be established virtually. It just takes far more intentionality. This is why salespeople that rely only on their email to try to connect, they're using written word. The ones that pick up the phone and have a human-to-human connection are going to have a lot more likelihood for success. And so it's hard to get FaceTime virtually unless you've earned it. And so what you do to continue to connect after the virtual meeting is going to be important, and getting the questions answered so that you can connect. It may just take multiple meetings. That's what I've seen virtually, is it might lengthen the process just a smidge bit more. Does that answer your question, Terry? That was Terry, yeah.
Jennifer, I had a question that's kind of in line with that. Sorry if I'm distracted there.
That's good.
Please, no, distract away.
Well, you know, and I think you and I are both old school salespeople, and I know Terry is too, as well as others on here possibly. But, you know, one of the things that I noticed about a decade ago, obviously, is that as we have had our younger generations moving very quickly up into leadership positions, it is so much harder to get that in-person meeting, because so many of the people that you're talking to that are a decision maker is that younger generation. And they want to do everything through email. And, you know, it's just, now Zoom has made, you know, with COVID and everything, it has made it even, at least you can put a face to a name anymore. But I noticed that. And then all of, you know, so many young entrepreneurs, it's just, they just don't want to connect face to face.
People are creatures of habit. And salespeople, if they stay in their old habits, will not have the disruptors that they need to get the attention of some of these younger audiences. The other adaptability is TQ, technological ability, technological intelligence. And you have to embrace all the different angles to try to get to the attention. And that brings me to the next section, the motivation of your buyer. We're particularly talking on this slide about your motivation as a seller, but you're going to have to disrupt the patterns of the sales that has been. I was coaching a guy the other day, and he was trying to basically leave a voicemail that was everything about his product. And he was selling a marketing product, and he had seen these cars driving around town, and they were wrapped with this roofing company's name. And that's what caught his attention. And he thought, wow, that is really cool. They're doing something unique and different. They're really mobile with their marketing. And so he had this voicemail about, I just wanted to reach out to you and talk to you about the ways that you're approaching your marketing and outreach efforts. And I was like, listen, the real reason that you thought about calling this guy in the first place is because you saw his really cool car wrapped billboard. So what is wrong with leading with the real reason why you're calling? That will shock the customer more than your pitch and value prop positioning. And sometimes you just have to be a little bit different in how you get to that why you're calling. LinkedIn is really good for this, and being able to do a little bit of research into what would prompt their attention. It's harder. Yes, Trish, I will tell you that it is a lot harder than just having a discussion where the only other obstacle is the competitor that does the exact same thing. It is far more than just a competitor doing the exact same thing. I sold media and marketing products. I always had to learn what my competitors were selling. I sold billboards. Nobody wakes up wanting to buy a billboard. I'm sorry if anybody on this call still sells billboards. I'd love to go back and sell billboards. I could make a ton of money for that company. But I had to understand radio. I had to understand TV. I had to understand broadcast TV, cable TV, newspaper, magazine publications to know where I fit in the puzzle, whether I was going to fit alongside or in lieu of. And that would be some of my abilities to differentiate. I would never make the client feel like the decision that they made to do a different media strategy or a marketing approach was wrong in the first place. They will get super defensive. There's emotions. Me just trying to compare myself next to my competitor could easily shut down a client emotionally. All of a sudden they think, oh, yeah, you're saying I'm stupid for my past decision, and you don't even know you did it. You just immediately flipped off a switch. Now, the emotional side of sales, back to the slides, and motivation. The sales industry, like I mentioned earlier, is unfortunately motivated and is motivating their team by money, prestige, promotion, even competing amongst your peers, competing amongst your industry, maybe even getting to that point of fame, aka thought leadership and your ability to be known. And ultimately, I challenge that if you change your internal motivations, your clients will pick up on your true motivations. If they ever sense that you are only in front of them because you want to make your goal, win that trip, or cash your paycheck, they will smell that from a mile away. I had to change my internal motivations. I was providing for my family. I was not just making money. I was offering impact. I was not just seeking prestige and achievement and appreciation. I needed to be content with where I was and not just desire and chase the next promotion. Promotions came to me and people sought me out, and I was content in the moment until opportunity had presented itself. And then I was always seeking to gain respect of my peers. I would mentor my peers for years for free because they just called me and asked me what I would do and what I was thinking, and I wanted to be able to help them. And honestly, my motivation is just to be fair and not be famous. So mindset, what matters to you and what motivates you. Now, this is the takeaway for today, is we can talk about emotions all day long. And I'm going to tell you that this is a skill. Self-awareness is a skill that you can develop. It's not easy, because if I were to have you give a 0 to 10 ranking of yourself and how emotionally aware that you thought you were, more than likely someone that knew you really, really well would give you a completely different score than what you would give yourself. We have self-preservation biases to ourselves. And the only way to develop awareness is either to take an external or a personal assessment. Myers-Briggs, the DISC survey, there's culture index, there's a whole plethora of assessments. Some organizations offer these assessments, but if you individually and independently want to know how you're wired and how to address your strengths and weaknesses in your personality, this is a really good place to start. So just to give you an insider's insight into me and my DISC results, I hate to be put in a detail analytical environment. I'm detailed and analytical, but I don't like to be put under the thumb of having that be my reality day in and day out, because it will burn me out. I am a high driver. I am motivated. I'm a chaser. I'm a people person. My D and my I are right up there, side by side in the 80s. So I'm not 99 skewed. I'm pretty balanced. But I need other people to pick up where my S and my C are lower so that I can be the most successful. Now, coaching and mentoring is also a place that you can develop your own awareness. This can be done with your management. If your management has a coaching and mentoring process built into their systems, hallelujah, God bless them. Not all of them do. So sometimes you have to seek external coaching and mentoring. I provide external mentoring. And this is where you do 3 things. Request feedback. Sit back and receive that feedback. And then take time to reflect on that feedback. A coach, a mentor, a boss, a manager, they're going to hold a mirror up to your face. And it's not always awesome what you see in the mirror. Now, I want you to think about the deals that are the no's. To be able to get to the end of that no, it's official, formal, this deal's behind you, you lost it. I want you to run yourself through the filter of even asking that client, requesting feedback. Was there something that caused you to get to that point of saying no? It is extremely vulnerable to ask a client why they chose not to do business with you, but it is extremely insightful. And can you receive that and understand that they were some things that you couldn't control? And then reflect on how you adapt and become adept at, to use the P word, as Trish would say, pivoting your approach with those particular clients. I started with a quote. I will leave you with a quote. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, ultimately, you're right. This is really where mindset comes into play, and your success in sales is going to take a lot of introspection, and it's going to take a lot of reflection. But I promise you, if you invest in the emotional EQ and you do professional development and strengthen your AQ, you're all top high performers, I would bet, with high IQs. You'll be able to get to sales success in no time. I am always a phone call away. I'm all over social media if you want to connect with me. I'm local to Urbandale in the metro, so if you want to sit down, I do offer free consultations. If you just need an emotional mirror to sit in front of you, my free consultations are a really great place to do that. I'm grateful for this opportunity. Thank you, Fuse, for putting this challenging topic on the table today. And I'm open to questions. We have about 10 minutes left. Since talking at you is no fun, talking with you is a bunch more fun.
Yeah, if you have questions, comments, yeah, chime in. We have a few more minutes.
Jennifer, have you found, especially with COVID, that, and I apologize, I had to take a couple calls here and there. So if you address this, but with COVID, are you seeing those that you are mentoring, talking to, the salespeople feeling defeated? Are you sensing that? You know, it's interesting because when we pivoted, I keep using the P word. I swear I wasn't going to start using that anymore. But when we pivoted, my background is in sales, and I was much like you. It was always a product more so until I moved into media. Then it became more of it was still a product, but it was also a service. And until I got involved with the chamber world many, many years ago, I never really thought of chambers as sales. And of course it is, you're selling a membership, obviously, but I liked it because it took me out of that hardcore competitive, kind of what can be ugly in sales sometimes, into a world where it was that sales went into a feel good, because you're selling a membership, but you're providing this amazing value to the business. So anyway, so when COVID hit, as my hardcore salesperson, we panicked, thinking this was our growth year. This was going to be our growth year. We're not, how are we going to do this? And it that went away fairly quickly, because I realized that we actually have not had a hard time selling. I mean, there have been obstacles to selling, but it wasn't because people were saying no. It was because they weren't being asked, and having that ability to be out there and talk with them. But I've noticed just a massive increase in our memberships just in the past couple months. So again, long way to ask. Do you feel that salespeople right now are really defeated?
It depends. It depends on the support system. It also depends on their own internal motivation. Salespeople build their own destiny. And the ones that blame external influencers are the ones that are going to sit in defeat. They're going to sit in that place of uncertainty. And the ones that are like, you know what, this is temporary, this is overcomable, I have the skills, I have the product, I know I can help and fix X, Y, and Z, they're not going to have any shame in picking up the phone, connecting and DMing on LinkedIn, emailing to try to tell the person receiving that information that yes, they can help. They think of it more from the customer is also feeling defeated, challenged, and stressed out right now. And if the salesperson sat in defeated, challenged, and stressed out too, they're never going to get the client to the success that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen that, talking with a lot of people that you referenced this, I can't remember if it was on the morning call or at the beginning of this one, that, there's a huge difference between marketing and sales. And in my generation, though, there was not, that's what we were sales and marketing people. And then over the course of the past couple of decades, they became two very distinct type of, and I still think, and nowadays, I think some people still don't understand that, but yes, very, very different. But what I also saw was the change to that relationship building. When I first started out in sales 30 years ago, it was close. Networking was not nearly as big of a thing as it became, and then went away again, and now it's coming back around. I think that relationship builders, I sometimes feel like everybody thinks they can sell, but they can't. Everybody can possibly be relationship building, but you're not really selling if you're not closing it. There's just some big differences in that. And I do believe that I've talked with some people throughout this COVID time period that have realized that in themselves. I'm not a salesperson. I'm a relationship builder, and they're very, very different things.
Well, one thing that I do when I run teams through assessments, I feel like there's 5 core sales functions, and you need to, as a salesperson, understand which of the core sales functions are your natural sales superpowers. It's one of the things that I coach and mentor on, is there are things that you do really, really well, and there's things that you need to admit that you don't do very, very well. And salespeople will not, I'm sorry to say, any sales managers in the room, salespeople will not admit to their managers what they're truly thinking and feeling. they'll barely admit to themselves where they are having some deficiencies. So identify and qualify is the first step of sales, AKA prospecting. If you only rely on marketing to fill that funnel, you will leave some really good clients by the wayside. Being able to seek and find those clients and secure that first meeting, that is a skill set of sales that is not the same as the skill set of identifying a good client. And then connecting and consulting, otherwise known as discovery, and the ability to find these hurdles and concerns and needs and goals and desires of the client is a skill that some people need to strengthen. Then there's the ability to propose to close. This is the proposal being closer to the close than it is to the discovery, and understanding all the objections that go into getting a client to the close, as you say, Trish. And then the third one is renew and retain. This is where relationships come into play. And we want to be able to know that if you put a solely relationship-centric person at the front end of the sales process, they're going to have a difficult time jumping through all of the sales hoops to just get to that, I want them to like me, I'll take good care of them. That's not a salesperson, that's a relationship manager. And most teams need to address where people might need to be reseated, supported, trained, coached, or mentored. It's going to help the success of the company overall.
I say that in chamber membership all the time. It's a very different person who's taking that time and yes, being interested in that business to talk with them and find out about their business and how a chamber can help them than it is that person on the back end when it comes time to renewal and making sure that they're just two very different types of people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, this has been some more stuff. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I appreciate everything that you shared, and everyone who was able to participate with today. Call your attention to some Fuse events coming up soon, so do make sure that you check the chamber calendar. We've got Farm, which is happening just a couple days. The State program on Tuesday mornings, and then also I do want to mention our new chamber.edu program, which has been, so any members been through the new member program yet and seen everything that Fuse has put together us as members, this is an opportunity for us to go back through what it's like to be a new member of the chamber and see how we can take advantage of our chambership. Jennifer, again, thank you so much for here. I want to thank again for bringing Jennifer in. And once again, a shout out to Holly and Mediacom Business for being our sponsor for this program. This has been a program today. So yeah, good. Thank you, Jennifer. I can't say it.
You
Yes,
bet.
Jennifer. Thank you very much.
And since
So everybody needs to go off to lunch and have a thought-filled, self-awareness, thought-provoking lunch.
Right.
A little meditation in the middle of your day.
There we go. And so let's see in the chat real quick here. On a scale of 1 to 5, Jennifer do today. You know, I think it's a 5. Good stuff. Or even by show of hands if you want to do it on the screen too. So this stuff. And since Jennifer offered, I would recommend you do reach out to her and take a conversation. Oh, we got a 5, Jennifer.
I have 5 out of 5 or 5 out of 10.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day. We'll see you next time.
You bet. Take care, everyone. Happy selling. All right, Danielle, anything else?